So, in my last video, we talked about Prince Harry and his attempt to try to patch things up with King Charles. And we also talked about the possibility of Prince Harry moving back to the UK. And I did see some roadblocks there. Now, today we're going to be looking at Meghan Markle's chart to see, what could her perspective be on all of this? What is her perspective on Prince Harry trying to mend things with King Charles? Would Meghan be open to moving back to the UK? We're going to be exploring those questions today using the Vedic astrology chart. Now, for those of you that are new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're interested in a reading, check down below for details. I do Zoom readings and I also do recorded readings. My website is not in use at the moment, so make sure if you want to record a reading to email me. If you want a Zoom reading, there's a Calendly link down below. Also, as a reminder, astrology is for entertainment purposes only. All these statements about Meghan Markle or Prince Harry, they're all based on my interpretation of the astrological energies. So let's go pull up Meghan Markle's chart and we're going to kind of get a snapshot on what's going on with her. Now, Prince Harry entered a Jupiter Mahadasha, so he's actually in a better period than he was last year in 2024. So let's go ahead and take a look at the transits, and we'll also take a look at the relevant dashas as well. Here's Meghan's chart. Now, the first thing I want to bring up with Meghan's chart is right away when I was looking at it earlier before recording this video, I noticed that transiting Saturn is over in the ninth house of Pisces. And remember, when Saturn transits a sign, it can take usually 2.5 years, somewhere around there, give or take, with the retrogrades and things. But about 2.5 years, it transits each sign. It's a very slow moving planet. And remember, it just started the transit in January of 2025. So just 7 months ago, or sorry, not January, March 2025. I need to change that. So it was only 5 months ago. Okay. So March 2025. And it's going to be there till February of 2028. And the only reason it's going to be there for almost 3 years is because of the retrograde motions that it's going to go through. It's actually going to enter the sign of Aries at the end and then go back. So, anyways, let's talk about this Saturn in the ninth house of Pisces. The thing about moving, and I did say there does seem to be some sort of delays in Prince Harry's chart because Saturn is in his fourth house, which could indicate homeland, going back home. And I see some delays. Well, it's interesting to note in Meghan's chart here, ninth house is all about travel. So we got to remember the UK is a foreign country to Meghan Markle. So there's delays, restrictions with foreign travel. And during this time, she actually may travel less, not just to the UK, but internationally. It might be just a less and less travel that's happening. So there's definitely restrictions or something going on there. And some of what Saturn can represent is somebody's fears. So it even could be a reluctance to travel. So even if Prince Harry says, "Hey, Meghan, I'm starting to patch things up with the royal family. Hey, do you want to come with me to this event?" There's going to be a real reluctance there to travel with Saturn in the ninth house. Now, the other thing I want to point out is the moon chart, because we also got to look at where is it transiting from the moon sign. So if we look at Meghan's chart, moon is in the third house of Virgo there. And if we make this as the first house, it's transiting seventh from moon. Okay. So in Vedic astrology, you want to look not just at the ascendant, but you also want to look at where it's transiting in relation to the moon sign. So in relation to the moon, the seventh house, again, this has a lot to do with marriage. So marriage relationships. Now, a lot of people have been kind of saying, they've been thinking that, um, or at least a lot of my followers have been kind of wondering if they're going to separate in the near future. Um, in when Saturn's in the seventh from Moon, and I don't know why I just erased that. When Saturn's in seventh from the Moon, it can indicate some trouble with spouse, especially emotionally. So, for example, if he's patching things up with the royal family, there could be a real negative kind of reaction there. And what I also wanted to point out was this can represent like your spouse going away for a while. It can represent separations. It can represent a reluctance for divorce, but the attention could still be theirs, but there might be a reluctance to do it. Saturn in seventh house, Saturn kind of produces this situation where you just feel obligated. Maybe you're not happy with your spouse, but you feel obligated to stay with your spouse. So there could be a reluctance to actually push through a divorce, but there could be some sort of maybe Prince Harry decides he's going to go back to the UK or do something, and he's going to be gone for 6 months, or there could be something like that during this period where there's a sort of separation. Okay, even if it's like a working separation. Um, the one thing that's got me worried about a potential separation also is the Chara Dasha, which we're going to look at in a moment. But let's look at the Vimshottari Dasha. Oh, actually, let's look at one more transit. The Rahu transit is in the eighth house, and if we look at the moon chart, it's in the sixth from Moon. Now Rahu's in the eighth house, and eighth house is being activated there, and eighth house can represent sudden breaks, shocking things. It can represent secrets coming out, so there could be some sort of secrets, knowledge of secret knowledge with the eighth house being activated. So this is definitely a volatile house that's being activated, especially considering the eighth house can just put you kind of in a emotionally a place of there's some sort of like instability there. There's some sort of the eighth house kind of produces this moment of where we're not as stable. Now I'm not saying she's not stable, but like there's this instability on a spiritual level, emotional level, mental level, and Rahu being there can kind of create that. So it's interesting. There could be some real difficulty right now, and there could be some real pushbacks. Rahu in the eighth house can also represent threats, by the way, like threats, like if you do this, then I will do this. Kind of like ultimatums, threats, kind of things like that. So there could be some real problems behind the scenes with this trying to patch things up with the royal family. She might not be too keen on the whole idea. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the Vimshottari Dasha first, and then we'll look at the Jaimini, which is called Chara Dasha. Vimshottari Dasha, Meghan is in Jupiter Venus right now. So Jupiter Venus. She's going to be in that period. She started back in June of 2023. So June 2023, and she's going to be in that period till February of 2026. She's kind of coming to the end of this Jupiter Venus, and then she's going to be entering Jupiter Sun. So for this video, we'll just explore the Jupiter Venus period, since I'll probably be making more videos about Meghan because people like the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle videos. But this Venus period, when it comes to separations, if we look at her chart, Venus is in the second house. It rules the 11th house. It rules the fourth house. It's not really a separation time as far as the Vimshottari Dasha goes. Although Venus in the second house can represent a sort of saturation point has been reached. There could be some sort of like you're at your wits end with somebody. And then Venus is being activated, so Venus in the second house, it can create even interest in other people. I'm not saying that that's actually happening, but it can. Venus can. But usually, if there's an extramarital situation going on, usually Rahu is going to be involved. Rahu in some way, like somebody could be in a Rahu Antardasha. That's pretty notorious for people like cheating or doing things like that. So I'm not necessarily feeling that way, but she could be at her wits end right now. The fourth house and the 11th houses, she's focused on home, money, trying to make more deals. There's been a lot of deals that have been falling through. So that could be quite a concern right now. It's not a bad period right now with the Vimshottari Dasha, but let's go ahead and look at the Chara Dasha. There's some astrologers that prefer Chara Dasha because they do feel that it kind of more reflects the actual physical reality. Right now, she's in a Scorpio Aries period. So Scorpio Aries. So there's public visibility. Oh, and Scorpio's fifth house. Again, this is not really even a bad period. Although, if we look at the padas in Chara Dasha, they use these things called padas, which is like the energy of a house. So, for example, in Gemini, the eighth pada is in the 10th house of Aries, which can represent, it has an eighth house energy. However, so this kind of does bring an energy of instability there, but I'm more worried about the next period. This Scorpio Aries period is going to end literally next month. So I don't think like this is going to be the actual catalyst. So Scorpio Aries, it started in February 2025. It's going to end September 3rd, 2025. So with making this video, it's like in 2 weeks. So it's not really that long. Let's talk about the next period though, because the next period is more concerning as far as there could be some difficulty as far as the Chara Dasha is concerned in the relationship. And not just a relationship difficulty, although I do feel like it's focused there just because Saturn's in seventh from Moon. But let's go ahead and talk about the next Chara Dasha period she's going to be in is going to be Scorpio Pisces. Now, remember with Chara Dasha, it goes by signs. Okay, so Scorpio again, fifth house. By the way, this is the major period. There's a focus on children, there's a focus on celebrity. So that's what's happening with the fifth house being activated. But Pisces is being activated over here. Again, ninth house. I'm also going to talk about that Saturn, and we're going to go back to that after I kind of rant about this for a minute. But the ninth house can also represent the royal family in a lot of ways. But let's go back to the Chara Dasha here. So ninth house is activated, but remember, we got to look at the Chara Dasha where the padas are. So the sixth pada is there. Okay. So that means that sixth house energy, which is conflict, divorce, disagreement, imbalance, is in the ninth house. So that's being activated. So she's going to be in that period, September 2025 until April of 2026. So it's a good little period of time here. It's going to be taking us all the way into April of 2026. This could bring up some really volatile energies. Now, if we take the whole chart as a whole, the Vimshottari Dasha, it's not really indicating craziness, but if we factor in the transits with the Chara Dasha, it is pointing to something, some sort of disagreement. The sixth house can also represent disagreements. So isn't that interesting? There could be a really big disagreement with Harry right now about trying to mend things with the royal family. Huge disagreement. There could be even, because remember, Rahu's in the eighth house. That's going. There could be like threats of like, hey, if you go back there, if you mend things up, it could be over between us. It could represent something like that. So this could be a very volatile subject. Now, I wanted to bring up Saturn in the ninth house. The ninth house can represent like patriarchy. And if you think about it, King Charles, and I'm not saying he's, like patriarchy in a bad way. But King Charles is kind of like the patriarch of the UK or England, if you think about it, because he's head of the Church of England. And that's what the original definition of a patriarch really is. It's kind of like a religious connotation. So he's like the head patriarch, right? So she's got Saturn in the ninth house, difficulty with patriarchy, difficulty with the patriarch. Um, so even from a Meghan's charts point of view, there could be this thing of, and I'm speculating here, but based on the astrological energies, maybe Prince Harry is having talks with King Charles or, his aides or whatever. And maybe there's some real talk about, hey, well, Meghan's a problem. What are we going to do? And there could be some caveats there. There could be some things happening there about, okay, well, how does she fit into the picture? And it's causing some difficulty with those negotiations that are happening right now. Uh, the chart seems to indicate I don't feel like we're going to see Meghan traveling to the UK. If we did, it would be a very choreographed, restricted kind of situation. So I feel like she's going to be very reluctant to travel there at this point. But the sixth house, by the way, it can represent divorce. It can, but it has to have a lot of other factors. If I usually want to see the Vimshottari Dasha, like one of the like the sixth lord or the eighth lord or K2 being activated as well. Although Jupiter, the Mahadasha Lord, is the sixth lord. So this could be a very volatile period of disagreement. There could even be, during this period between September and April, this situation could come to a head. There could be, for example, I said like some sort of separation that takes place or disagreement. Um, and who knows if we're going to see this like in the public eye or not? Because the thing about Rahu being in the eighth house, remember I told you there's secrecy. So there could even be disagreements happening with that couple, and there's a lot of secrecy or covering up, maybe to save face. That can happen with this kind of sort of stuff. So, anyways, I see a potential volatile period there in Megan's chart between September 2025 and April of 2026. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see. Um, and if we're basing it on the Chara Dasha, we could be seeing signs of something going on as soon as September or October. So we could be getting some sort of strange news there or something along those lines that will have psychics and astrologers like myself making more videos. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.